In this video, we're going to talk about how to find linear equations. The first thing we'll need to talk about is the slope formula. The slope is represented by the variable m, and that is found by taking the change in y and dividing that by the change in x. And by that, we mean taking the difference in the y values and dividing by the difference in the x values. So if we are given two ordered pairs, remember that ordered pairs are an x paired with a y value. So each point has an x and y value. To find the slope, m, I'm simply going to go from left to right and subtract those y values. 7 minus 11. And since I'm going left to right for the y values, I must follow that same direction when I subtract the x values. 3 minus negative 2. Now do be careful when you are subtracting a negative number, because subtraction of a negative turns into a positive. So we actually have negative 4 in the numerator and positive 5 in the denominator. So the slope of the line that contains these 2 points is negative 4/5. Here's another set of ordered pairs. So again, we have x paired with y and another x paired with y. So I start with the y values. The slope will be equal to the difference of those y values divided by the difference of the x values. So again, I'm just working from left to right when I make these subtractions. So negative 2 minus 4 becomes our denominator. When you have subtraction of a negative, that changes to plus. So negative 6 add 4 will give us negative 2 in the numerator. Negative 2 minus 4 gives us negative 6 in the denominator. Whenever it's possible to reduce fractions, we always do that. And with the sign, negative divided by negative will mean we have a positive 1/3 slope. In our next examples, we're just reminded about what the slope formula is. So I'm taking my y values. Slope is the change in these y values, 5 minus 5, divided by the change in our x values, negative 2 minus 3. This time in the numerator, 5 minus 5 will make 0, and negative 2 minus 3 makes negative 5. Recall from past lessons that 0 divided by a number will equal 0. When the slope is 0, this is a special line, and slope of 0 represents a horizontal line. In example 4, again, we're going to find the slope by taking the change in our y values, 2 minus 0. The change in the x values is 4 minus 4. So the difference in the numerator is 2. 4 minus 4 would be 0. When you have a number divided by 0, that is undefined. On your calculator, it will tell you that it's an error. So we translate that as an undefined slope. And lines that have an undefined slope are vertical lines. So we want to keep these two special cases in mind. Once we know how to find the slope given 2 points, the slope and one of the given points will help us to actually write the equation of the line. So again, we need to start with slope. Change in y values here is 5 minus 13. Denominators would be negative 2 minus a negative 6. So we end up with negative 8, and the denominator is 4. So when we simplify negative 8/4, the slope is negative 2. Now it doesn't matter which of the ordered pairs you choose to write the equation of your line, because both of those points are on the line. So I'm just going to go with the first ordered pair that's given, negative 2, 5. So if I have negative 2, 5, remember that negative 2 is the x value, 5 is the y value. So we're going to be using y equals mx plus b to help us write our linear equation. Since we know what the slope is, in other words, we know m is -2, we know x is -2, and we know y is 5, we can substitute those three values into our linear equation and solve for b, which represents our y-intercept. So I end up with 5 equals slope of -2 times x value of -2 plus b. So notice we only have the one variable remaining. 5 now equals 4 plus b. Use your properties of equality now to isolate b. We'll be subtracting 4, so that leaves us 1 equals b. Since we know the y-intercept and we know the slope of the line, we should be able to write the equation of the line. So thinking y equals mx plus b, y will equal slope of -2 times x plus 1. And now we have the equation of our line. In example 2, again, we need to start by finding the slope of the line. So we'll take the y values, -8 minus -9, divided by the change in the x values, -3 minus -6. So our slope is going to become, let's see, 1 divided by 3. So we have a slope of 1/3. And if I just go with that first value, first ordered pair, x is worth -3 and y is worth -8. So using y equals mx plus b, I make the necessary substitutions. -8 equals slope of 1/3 times x value of -3 plus b. Well, this is sort of nice because 3 and -3 reduce. So I have -8 equals 1 times that negative is -1 plus b. Adding 1 to both sides of the equation results in -7 equals b. So our y-intercept is -7 and our slope is 1/3. So all we have to do is make the necessary substitutions into y equals mx plus b. Y equals 1/3 x minus 7. So we are not writing plus -7. We're simplifying that. Adding a negative number is the same as subtraction. So make sure you're writing that correct. For example 3, we don't have 2 points given. However, we are told what the slope is and one of the points that goes on the line. So we have our x value of -2, y value +3, and m equals 2. So we can go directly to y equals mx plus b and make the substitutions. 3 would equal the slope of 2 times -2 for the x value plus b. 3 is equal to -4 plus b. When I add 4 to both sides of the equation, we get 7 equals b. So the y-intercept is 7. The slope is 2. So when we write the equation of the line, y equals slope of 2 times x plus 7, which is the y-intercept. In example 4, we know m, or slope, is -3/5. We have x value of 4 and y value of -1. Making our substitutions, -1 equals -3/5 times the x value of 4 plus b. Now this one doesn't have the convenience of 5 reducing with 4. So we'll have to just go ahead and multiply that out. -1 equals, if it helps, 4 is the same as 4 over 1. So the numerators are -12, denominator 5 times 1 would make 5 plus b. So this looks a bit awkward, but that's okay. We'll be able to work with it. We want to add 12/5 to both sides of the equation so that we can solve for b. However, when I add 12/5 to both sides, I don't have terms that have a common denominator. So we need to think of another way to write -1 so that its equivalent fraction will have 5 in the denominator. So thinking of -1 as a fraction, -1/1, do you see what number you would have to multiply the numerator and denominator by to get 5 in the denominator? If we multiply both the numerator and denominator by 5, we are building it up with the same factor, so we can make an equivalent fraction, and that would be -5/5. So now we can go ahead and combine these fractions that have a common denominator. -5/5, +12/5. And that's going to give us +7/5 for the y-intercept. So now we're ready to write our equation. Y equals slope of -3/5 x, and then include the y-intercept, +7/5 plus 7/5. Sometimes we have to put a little more effort into solving for b, especially when we don't have common denominators. But we can always build up with some common factor to create a term written that has a common factor. Here are a few more examples of writing linear equations. We have a slope of 0, and the line goes through -2, -9. So m is 0, x is -2, y is -9. Since we have numerical values for the slope, the x, and the y, we can do our substitutions. So using y equals mx plus b, we have -9 equals 0 times -2 plus b. And notice 0 times -2 will be eliminated, so -9 is the y-intercept. Slope, we knew, was 0. So the equation of the line, y equals slope of 0 times x minus the y-intercept. Now this looks a bit awkward. We typically would not write this as the final form of our linear equation because 0 times x is 0, therefore it eliminates from the problem, and we simply have y equals -9. So this is one of our special cases where x does not appear in the linear equation because this is going to be a horizontal line. Remember, when the slope is 0, you have a horizontal line. Now the shortcut way to actually write this equation without having to go through all that calculation is to remember that with a horizontal line, every y value must be the same, because just imagine what the horizontal line looks like. Here it is. And so that's going to go through the y-axis in such a way that every y value is exactly the same. The y value we have is -9. So look at the answer. Y equals -9. We could have just started with that. In our other example, the slope is undefined. So I don't have a number that represents that slope. So what we should recall is that an undefined slope is a vertical line. And the x value names the line. That means every x value should be 3 because our line goes through 3, 1. So no matter what the x value is in a given point, that x value is what names the line. So we have a vertical line such that every single point on that line will be +3.